Yes, I do.
No, it's already there.
It's there.
Yep.
Oh, GSM? Okay. Thank you.
All right, so if we're all set, I'll call this meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, September 8th, 2025 Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Roll call. To my immediate left, we have Deputy Mayor, Councilwoman Portia West, and to my immediate right, we have Councilman Fred Green. Call to approve minutes from the May 19th, 2025 meeting.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Are there any public, are there any public comments on agenda items only? I don't see any members from the public here. Do we have any questions, comments from our clerk or our controller? All right, hearing and seeing none. Moving forward with agenda items. Mr. Troutman.
Let's jump into the financial statement recap. Through July 31st, it will be for the first 7 months. So this first slide is a recap of everything that comes through on every slide every month. As a friendly reminder, shorter questions, we'll move to the next slide, please. Key points for July. We still maintain a comfortable $20.8, almost $21 million operating cash balance. We have substantial funds, almost the same amount in the specialty funds. Staffing, you can read it there. Revenues were $2 million unfavorable to budget. I'll explain a little bit about that. And expenses were $3.9 million favorable to budget. So we do have a net $1.9 million favorable. And it's our 7th month that we've been favorable. So we have a consistent pattern that we have here, that we're fairly stable. Not necessarily where we would like to be overall, but we're fairly stable. And then our payables are fairly consistent as well as $3.5 million. So that's consistent. And we're looking at our year-end revenues and expenses basically being at budget for the year. Didn't realize it was going to come out so small. I apologize for that. But what we're looking at is some additional points here in more detail. The $1.9 million favorable net, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we do expect the revenues to catch up. It looks as if it's a timing issue, and it's really about how we budgeted the host fees versus how they're being received. So we will refine that as we move into next year from a learning curve, but for this year, we're expecting them to be fine by the time we get to year end. And we do expect a fair amount of change on the expenses in the last 6 months, but we still expect them to be manageable to budget by the time we get to year end. With that, I would suggest we go to the next slide and we get into more details. These are our cash balances. I mentioned before, $20.8 million of operating cash. You can see that the general fund is the bulk of that. We've gotten to the point internally that we're able to keep fewer funds in the different delineated accounts so that we can concentrate it in the cash account, in the general fund account. In the specialty funds, by definition, each of these has a special purpose, and you can see that there are several healthy balances in there as we move forward. This is the first of the revenue slides, and it just gives a little bit more detail, mostly for the disclosure aspect of it, so that people can see the details and where it's coming from. And you can see the bottom section is the host fees section, where that's where the 2 million negative is coming from. And again, it's a timing issue. You can see to the right, we're projecting that it'll come in at budget by year end. The next slide is the detailed revenue groupings. And here, one can see that there's a couple of big ones, the biggest being the earned income tax. That continues to be positive for the city, and that's covering off a number of other line items, as you can see there. Next slide, please. The expenditures, these are grouped by the three major groupings of compensation, benefits, and all other. All three are positive. And again, we're going to start seeing, especially in the other category, that planned expenditures will absorb a lot of that positive by the time we get to year end. Next. This is just a visual way of showing that every month we've been doing better than what we thought we would do. And it continues through 7 months. And as it gets closer to year end, it'll start getting closer, the lines will start getting closer together. But we build up enough of a positive balance that we can absorb these changes of expenditures as we get closer to year end. That's the meat of the presentation. Turn it back to council for questions.
So when it comes to places like Covanta, it's just that they haven't paid yet, but they're on track to pay, and or
They're paying what they're expected to pay.
okay,
When they're expected to pay it, we budgeted at a different cycling of the payments.
then what their cycle is.
Right. So
Okay.
we'll learn from that, and we'll adjust to it for next year.
Okay.
This is effectively the first year that we budgeted by month. So we kind of stepped out there and said, here's what we think based on imperial knowledge and other factors. We missed on that one.
Okay. But overall, the city is in good financial health with the exception of the $40 million past due pension payments.
We always have to put that as a caveat. So the simple answer is yes, as a caveat to that, and the unknowns yet of some of the court cases. Those
I
would
did
be
see
the-
something about the legal fees was lower, currently lower than expected. We projected them to be a little bit higher around this time, but they're lower, so that's a positive for us.
Oh, that's the largest component of the favorable expenses. We budgeted 3.9 million.
Mm-hmm.
We're running at a projected about a $2 million projection
For the entire year.
for the entire year. And we're
Okay.
running roughly at 1 million through July.
Okay.
Mr. Troutman, going into the next budgeting cycle, do you expect that the compensation the $600,000 in regards to the compensation we're saving from the vacancies will change due to positions changing and the need for us to fill those roles in the future? How will that affect, our budget going forward in the 2026 cycle?
There's a balancing act here between everybody would like to have all the budgeted positions filled January 1, because the premise is you budgeted for it because you have a need for it, a value for that position. But the reality is there almost always are vacancies. So one should probably expect that there will be vacancies next year to some extent. We just don't know the quantity of that. So you tend not to want to budget for vacancies,
Okay,
if that helped answer your question.
it does.
Okay.
Because the goal is to have them filled.
Correct.
Okay.
Operationally,
All right.
everybody wants their positions filled.
Right.
They've been budgeted to be filled. And it's not a good practice to have vacancies or to count on vacancies in doing budgeting. That's not the most prudent way to balance budgets, is to expect for people to not be in their positions.
Makes sense.
Do we have any more questions or comments from anyone?
We are with our audits. The
Um,
audits, how are we coming along on the audits?
We're proceeding on the audits. The 2021, we're hoping, is all but done. We're waiting for the auditors to do the final reviews within their internal office. So that 2021 should be fairly imminent, and 2022 is being staged, ready for them to work on. So there's a constant feedback loop going on to keep moving forward to get caught up.
How long do you think that will take for us to get caught up?
We're probably hoping early next year that we'll be caught up.
And just for the public record, I know for the last year or two that the receiver's office and his team, they anticipated that the city would hit a financial cliff come 2026. But these numbers show differently. And so the community can rest knowing that we won't hit a financial cliff in 2026. Am I correct?
That is where we're at right now, and that is the projections. But it is dependent upon the two caveats we mentioned a few minutes ago.
The court hearings.
The quarter hearing. If we're required to pay the debt, then we have to revisit where we're at. So that's clearly out there. So that's probably a good segue to make a few comments about where we are with the budgeting process. We have worked with each of the departments. The departments have presented their budgets. We have accumulated them. We have reviewed them with the receiver, with a first cut, if you will. And the chief has been involved, hands-on, sitting in on many of the budget discussions, working through what should and should not be in the budget, what we can and can't afford. It's tight. It's very tight, but at this point is generally workable, but it will require some more decisions. But we will go through the same basic process. Once we've done all that and we have what we believe is a balanced, workable budget, then we will bring it to you with the details and the support. You'll get a similar type of book as you got last year, and then we'll work through with you answering your questions and getting your revisions, your input, and working with the public so that they'll have time for input.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Any more questions or comments from the committee? Hearing and seeing none. Any comments from members of the public?
Come to the
Come to the mic, please.
Forgot it's being recorded. Good afternoon, Joy Taylor, City Controller. I had a question in regards to the parking revenues versus the expenditures for parking services, if we can get clarity on that. And then I also had a question in regards to, it was stated that the previous receiver would be hired in some capacity by the state to help the city work on audits. I just wanted clarity on if, I believe we're in audit year 21, and if it's normal to have someone who would have been the authorized approver of some of the transactions that happened in that particular year also be simultaneously auditing those years after resigning from that position, if that makes sense. So we can just get a little bit of clarity on those two items, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, let me go at the first one. On the parking, we have a contract with the parking, with a contracted firm that is roughly $20,000 a month. And they have been charged with helping us implement strategies on the parking fees. So that component of the fees are plus or minus $4,000 a month. There's another component to the parking, which is attributable to the lots that are around the Union soccer events. There's also a third component, which is the agreement we have with Widener for whether you want to call it a pilot or whether you want to call it in lieu of parking. But we have those three components on the revenue side vis-a-vis the expenditure that I referred to. So that would be the first comment. Chief, do you have anything you want to add on parking? Okay. And
So
then,
before you go to her next question.
Sure.
So we are paying $20,000 in parking expenses a month. Are we receiving any revenue from the parking?
yes.
Authority?
Yeah, that was
Or-
roughly the 4,000. And there are ongoing conversations about changes, variations that might be implemented. And those are ongoing conversations that the receivers team is having with the parking contracted firm.
So we're paying 20,000, we're receiving 4,000, so we're at a net 1,000, 15, 16,000. I mean, a net loss of $15,000 to $16,000 a month?
Yes, and I don't want to hedge that, but at the current time, that's what it is. Understanding that there are some changes that are being worked through.
Changes via the contract that we have with them?
Contract or different revenue changes, variations. I'm not privy, I'm not involved with the exact details. I just know of them. So I can relate to you the general comments about what's happening.
Have we thought about what that looks like for us long-term? If we're at a net loss of $16,000 a month with the parking authority, or with they're not the authority anymore, but with the parking company or contractor, what have you, what does that look like for us? And are we going to revisit that contract to say, okay, is this working or isn't it working? You know,
From the meetings I'm involved with, I absolutely can tell you that it is quote-unquote top of mind with the receiver about the short and the long-term implications. It is very much being worked through at that level. So the answer is yes, it's being worked through and is very cognizant of the impact.
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
Councilwoman Gibson. It doesn't make any sense to me that we should be in a 15,000, 16,000
Yeah.
deficit for the parking authority. That makes no sense to me. And so you're saying that it's going to be revisited. How long is it going to take to revisit that issue? Because we're losing money, not gaining money. And like, how's the city really benefiting from having the parking authority, but it's clearly showing that we are in a deficit?
I would suggest that it is very top of mind with the receiver about how this has played out so far with this contract. And they are working through what changes they want to make to figure out what the value proposition is of this. And I am happy to relay your comments, but I can assure you they are very well aware of the financial impact of the parking decisions.
And where's the 4,000 coming from that we're receiving? Where's that coming from?
That's from the licenses, the fees that are charged. in conjunction with that program?
One would think, why would we need the parking authority, and how is it really benefiting the city of Chester, especially if we're having monetary issues?
Yeah, it's fair questions, and it's the fair questions that are being asked at the receiver level as well. And they're in the process of trying to make decisions regarding it. I would suggest that it will and is a topic that's top of mind when we're putting the budget together. And that's where some of these practical decisions are being impacted. So another way to say it is you will certainly, won't be the last time that you'll hear or have a conversation about the parking. It will come up as part of the budgeting process.
It shouldn't be the last time that we hear about it or discuss it, and those funds could be allocated to something else that's more beneficial to the city. Thank you.
Sure.
I know we had the same issue with the last parking contract. I think that, we got rid of that. I thought we was entering into a better contract, or I'm not understanding. I'm glad, I'm grateful for the controller for bringing this to our attention, because, I didn't see those numbers, so thank you for that. But please, let's see what we can do, and if there is, a meeting that needs to be held with council and the receiver and yourself to figure out what is the plan of moving forward, and what this looks like, short-term and long-term, for the city, especially if we're at a net loss of $16,000 or so a month. We need to figure out how we need to switch this up, or what needs to happen from here. So.
And my commitment is we will have more detailed conversations as we go through the budgeting, if you don't hear about it otherwise. But I know there's conversations happening between the parking authority and the parking authority, between the parking vendor and the receiver's office regarding this net equation. And you have a follow-up on, yeah, let's deal with this issue first.
There
No,
was
don't
one item
apologize.
that I did mention, I missed, my apologies. It was in regards to the parking contract, not the parking, I'm sorry, the trash contract. It is my understanding that the city is taking a different approach as it relates to how it solicits bids, but I was under the impression that the opening of those bids would still be done publicly. Just want to get clarity as to where we stand with our trash contract in relation to the existing term that we have on the current contract, which I thought I saw that as a line item on one of the slides, and I could be wrong. It was fine print, and I didn't bring my printed copy. But just trying to get some clarity on where we stand with the remainder on the previous contract, and what we should be expecting on the new contract. And this may not be the appropriate meeting for that, but getting some clarity around bid openings that are going to be solicited through pen bid, just to make sure that I have clarity and the public has clarity also on how public funds are going to be allocated to contracts through pen bid that are not opened in public forums to be read off to the public. And that was my final thing.
Ms. Controller, can you remind me of your second question?
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
So the
don't
second
apologize.
question was, no worries. The second question was in regards to the audits. I believe it was
okay, yeah.
Councilwoman West who had asked about the status of the audits. My follow-up to that was, it was my understanding that previous receiver Dowry was hired by the state to assist the city in the completion of the audits. I believe we are currently auditing year 21. He was brought in 2020, just trying to get clarity on the normalcy, I guess, of having someone in that capacity who authorized a lot of the transactions, also being the person reviewing them as the auditor. Just, again, not 100% sure if this is the appropriate form, but because it has to do with our audits, just getting some clarity on that, but perhaps council can also take that question to the next level if need be, just to make sure that there's no conflict of interest as it relates to his involvement with reviewing things that he, in many cases, had authorization to approve.
So let me see if I can answer at least parts of that. It is factually correct that the former receiver is involved with the audits, continuing to be involved with his audits in a limited capacity. He is involved in meetings that I'm involved with the receiver. It is limited only to the component that is talking about the audits. I find it of value for him to be involved for that very same reason. He doesn't quote unquote approve it. That's going to end up being the current receiver. But he is one of the people that was in the room. So as we put the audits together, unfortunately or fortunately, I wasn't there. So he's tremendously valuable with helping us with the institutional knowledge about helping to fill in context. But the audit is the audit, and it's going to be done according to the rules and regulations of any financial independent audit. It is good to have some consistency. So to that aspect, I can speak. If there's no other questions on that one, I'll go to the third topic, or the third question, is the bid opening process. And I can speak to part of that. And I might have to defer to the clerk or assistant clerk to help with how they were opened. But we did go through the process of a bid process for the trash. We had 2 responses. They were vetted. There was one that was selected, and that is going through the approval process through the receiver and council. I can't personally speak to who was in the room when they were opened or how they were opened. I'm going to have to defer to somebody else who's in the room to answer that, or I will have to come back to you with an answer.
But Tom, would you,
We weren't in there for that.
and I know like they used to do it in front of, at the council meeting, in front of
At
the
the council
public.
meeting.
At a public meeting.
So,
That's how they used to do it. Yeah.
yeah. So Candace Newsome, city clerk, for the trash RFP bid opening, myself, Nora Joan was in that. The opening time, I had counsel, Ms. Neal was out. I believe Ken Schuster, the solicitor, was called out of the council meeting to sit in for it to be opened. So when those bid openings are done through pen bid, Ms. Neal and Greg Schaefer sits and opens up the computer, and you look and you see if it's any bids and then who bid it. It's not in what we're used to as, in the past, the city clerk opened up in a council meeting so that the public can hear and see what's actually going on.
And why is that no longer the case?
We're handling all the procurement through the vetting process. Anything that is going through a sealed bid process is going through the tender process.
But no one,
It's a perfectly acceptable form of taking this.
right, that's fine.
Updated than just getting paper files and then opening up at the council.
Got you. But at no point is the public or any type of media made aware of that
You
information?
can log on to PenBid right now and see exactly which bids were submitted and what price proposals included online.
Oh, yeah, Chief.
So while he's coming to the mic, just because specific names were mentioned, Greg Schaefer's name was mentioned. He is the city's procurement person. So, and Joe Neal's name was mentioned as the assistant city clerk, just for the record.
Yeah, everything that we put out for bid is now done through the electronic version known as PenBid. So the advertisements are done online, all of the bid specs are placed online, the date of the opening is part of the RFP package that is out. It's then opened up online. That information is available if you go to the PenBid site. I don't have the URL right in front of me, but it's PenBid, also, I think it's also AKA Bonfire. So it's all done through a process where you can go online and look at the bid results. And we will be, at this afternoon's deliberative meeting, we'll be discussing specific to the refuse and recycling contract. That is up for council action this week. So we'll discuss that at this afternoon's council meeting.
Got you. Chief, before you go, I have a quick question. In regards to us putting all information out for via electronically on PenBid, how would someone know to go to PenBid and look for that information that we're trying to require if it's only online? Like, how would somebody even know that we're looking for a new trash contract if
It's,
Oh, that's
it's
that-
still,
so that's
it's
what I
still
was wondering.
advertised. We also put it on the city's website.
Gotcha.
Also, in the pen bid process, it depending on what type of bid specs you're putting together, there may be a list that's provided. For example, if you were doing electrical contracts, right? There's a list of contracts that are certified in the pen bid process. It's then sent to them as well. So that's part of the process that Greg goes through, notifying, all right, here's an RFP for refuse removal. Here are the haulers. That gets sent out to them. So there's a direct link that gets sent out to those eligible entities.
Gotcha. That was my question. Thank you.
There's pen bid.
So what do? Just go to the search bar and type in Chester, and it comes up?
I would love to see the open bids for the trash.
Yeah.
They can just any random person can open.
There you'll see the open opportunity. You have to dig a little deeper to get into the search engine, but it'll tell you exactly. I got the page bookmarked, so I don't know exactly how to search for it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. But it's all on their website.
So are you stating, for clarity, are you stating that the two bids that were submitted that were already opened by the city are available for anyone to see online right now? That's what I wanted to get clarity
The
on.
former proposal and the price is online. That's correct.
So what you received is not online?
The
If I said, so you put a proposal out, RFP, Taylor Trash responded, you opened it. Is what I submitted to you as open available for the public to see?
The entire bid package, no.
So how,
Response.
if you could provide clarity for myself and perhaps council, how does that provide the transparency to the public to know that we received these bids based on what we put out, and these were the options? I think that's the part that's pivotal, that's missing, that we're accustomed to, and I understand change, and I want to better understand the change, but I'm having a difficult time understanding how the public is supposed to have access to something that's only online, that I submitted online, as opposed to the previous process where they could come in, the bids would be open here, and they would remain in the clerk's office for any open records request. I think that's the part that I'm trying to get clarity on.
And there can be an open records request filed by anybody with respect to that. I don't think back in the day when we used to open them up, that we naturally turned those over to anybody unless there was an open right to know request. So I don't think it's any different in an electronic format than it is having a physical format open here at a city council meeting.
Okay, so, but we can't see them.
I don't think you could see them before.
Well, they were red, so somebody saw them and
The-
you knew they were here. I just want to know, how would I know how many were submitted and which one the city chose?
Well, the city hasn't chose anything yet. There were two proposals that were submitted. They were reviewed by a selection committee that was formed. That selection committee reviewed both of those proposals. They determined, they made a recommendation. That recommendation is going in front of city council this afternoon as to who the lowest responsible bidder would be.
Okay. Well, I guess perhaps at deliberative, it'll become more clear on what I'm saying, if it's not already clear now.
Madam Controller, I believe the question that, I'm trying to gain clarity now on what everyone's saying. What you're asking is how would the public know who bid for anything that the city puts out? If it's only on a private website that certain individuals can access? Is that what your question is?
If you're gonna review them at deliberative, I guess we'll hear everything at that point, and moving forward, perhaps at deliberative, we'll also get clarity on who exactly is on the scoring committee or whatever committee who's reviewing them. I'm just trying to figure out how.
I don't think that's how it works, though.
As somebody that was on a previous scoring committee, are those selected at random?
Say that again?
For somebody that was on a previous scoring committee, are those committees selected at random?
No, the committee members are selected based on that particular area of expertise. So for example, for the refuse, we had Andrew Heyman was on the scoring committee as the director of as director of streets. We had Melba was on the committee. We had myself on the committee. There was, who else was on that committee? Rich, you were on the committee, right? So relevant to.
I was on the committee, but
You had to
I
recuse yourself.
recused
Correct,
myself.
correct. So normally there's a committee and we've done this with every RFP that we've done in the year that I've been here. It's relevant to a particular department or certain experts that we have that are looking at that. We have the consultant that was selected by City Council previously, MSW Consultants, which completely revamped the bid specs for this particular contract. I think that's shown value. You'll see that this afternoon when we give a presentation on this. So we had 2 proposals that were submitted, thoroughly reviewed, big discrepancy in price, right? Both of those were responsive, but one was clearly more, I don't want to say less responsible. They're both responsible bidders, but one was certainly at a much lower price, and that's what you'll hear this afternoon.
But I think to Joy's comment, I don't, like when they give us the information, it's like we don't review the entire proposal. They're giving us a recommendation. This was the lowest responsible bidder, and this is who we're recommending that you approve. I don't think the information that you're looking for, that you're speaking of, they don't give that to us, to my knowledge. Or at least that hasn't how it's worked in the past.
That's what the
with
purpose
PennBid.
of the review committee is, to review what the respondents have submitted, review that, basically digest that, ask additional questions, and then submit a recommendation to council. That's the process.
But I think that, we're being asked to vote on it, I think there should be more clarity as to the details of what's being presented, There should be more clarity. And then I like the other way of opening up the bids right here in council meeting with, each bidder, the address, the amount that they bid, whether or not they put up a 10% bid bond and all that. It was more clear, rather than someone having to go online, And I know we're in a day of modern technology, but it just seemed more transparent the other way.
And is that still required? I remember before, they would send a check in and Candace would have that check, or does they still do that like that?
The bonding requirements are included in the RFP package.
Okay.
So
who would they
bid
send the
bond,
check to now?
it's basically done electronically.
Oh.
So it's
okay.
all
So
online.
everything electronically.
It's all online.
Right.
Seems more streamlined. Like, it seems like it'll make everything like more cohesive.
Not
Right.
everybody is
Yeah.
online, okay?
That's true.
Not everybody is online.
May I make a suggestion? I'm trying to work back and forth with Greg. He's in a dentist chair right now. But Greg, the purchasing person for
Will he be here at 2 o'clock?
Not if he's in the dentist chair, but we'll get an answer. And we'll get the process laid out for you.
Yeah,
So
maybe he can come to a future meeting and we can discuss the whole procurement process and how that works. But this is what we've been doing, I
Yes.
don't know for how long.
So his simple answer.
We've been doing this electronically via PennBid since I've been back.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't anything different than what we've been doing. I don't know when we got away from the paper bids.
And,
When I was doing it, it was depending on what it was. When Mike Galante was the engineer, some of the stuff he wrote depended, his son painted it out. Then all of a sudden, everything was different. The last one that I opened up was for summer food service program, not this year, maybe last year or the year before. That was the last time I did something public. Now, even that is on vendors.
So if we want to explore that, we can look at the whole procurement process if you prefer to maybe go back to what it used to be. But there's certain advantages to doing it online, and I understand the controller's concerns that you'd like to have the whole package in front of you that you can review. Anybody could file a right-to-know request and ask for that. Normally, that's done after a bids have been reviewed and then action has been taken, because that becomes part of the public domain.
Right. And that makes sense.
And there has been some open records requests for bids. There has been.
and
Yes, I send them to Greg, and Greg, yeah.
did we answer your question, Controller Taylor, about, is there a possible conflict of interest? We didn't answer that.
No, Rich,
About-
he gave enough context.
Okay,
I can read you.
about the audits. I was just wondering, you know, before we had someone full-time, I guess, working on the audits. Now it's part-time, right? That was my understanding.
Let's be clear on one thing. The previous receiver is not auditing the city's finances. We have a separate firm that is the actual auditor.
Okay.
He's there to provide some context. He was the guy in the room. He was here at that time. Neither myself nor Rich were here at that time, so he's there in a supporting capacity. He is not auditing the finances of the city of Chester for 2021. That is not the previous receiver's role.
You're making it more clear, because I was told that he was doing.
The auditor would be,
Handling
who is the
the
auditing firm,
audits.
Rich?
Is Milligan.
Milligan is the entity
is-
that is the legal, providing the legal audits,
Which
not
is
the
now-
receiver. The receiver is not auditing the 2021 financial statements. That is not his role, clearly.
Yeah, and actually, they were acquired, so it's CBIZ is the actual name of the auditor that you will see on the financial statements. They are a CPA firm that is hired by the city, independent. It's called an independent audit. They will do it consistent with auditing rules that are done any other place. We just happen to have a receiver who sees it and is involved with it, but has nothing to do with the debits and credits of the audit.
So he's a consultant?
No, he's a helpful voice. I wouldn't characterize it
Well,
as
what is
anything,
that?
with all,
However you want to term it.
yeah, with all
Voice
due
is a
respect to the
consultant.
receiver, he's a voice, but he's a nominal voice. There's rules about how you do an audit, and he helps context, and that's it.
That's what consultants do, help you.
He was, as the controller mentioned, he was here at that time, but he is not auditing. But you can imagine with Rich and myself now being here, they're asking questions about certain things that happened in 2021. We have no ability to give any context into that. That's what the receiver's value is. And we have a meeting and he's there to answer any questions. He is not auditing the books of the city of Chester for 2021. Just want to make that 100% clear. That is not the former receiver's role in any of this.
Good point.
Will we ever, I mean, what's the projection? I know you gave a projection as to when the audit should be completed, but you know, Tom, we've been dealing with this for years and years and years and years, you know,
Well,
audits being behind.
And I think that's part of the challenge, because you can't go on to the next year's financial statements until you lock down 2021. You can't start and complete 2022 until 2021 is done.
Right.
What's your fund balance? What's your beginning balance? What's your ending balance? That's the kind of stuff that you need to nail down, and you finalize that as part of the 2021 audit. And I think then theoretically the 2022 and subsequent audits should move a little faster once you get once you get caught up with that first year that we're so far behind on.
Yes, without getting too much into the weeds, we had a new firm with a transition from 2020 to 2021. We had two different softwares that were used by the city. There was not an appropriate transition between the two softwares. And all that just made it really, really complicated to get through 2021. That's part of the weeds that we're working through, and I don't like it, but we have to get through it. And we are able to work through 22 and 23 and 24, and it's a combination of their ability to process and their being the auditor's ability to get through this as much as us getting through it. And there'll be more descriptives when we get to the point of getting an audit finalized. We'll have a communication at that point in time.
And here's a little life lesson. Don't change financial management systems midway through the year. Don't go from Panimation to Edmunds. Anybody out there who might be considering doing something like that in the middle of the year, just don't. So, wasn't a good.
Who authorized it?
Wasn't a good idea.
So it was just a mess.
He authorized it, now he's audit, oh, okay.
He's not auditing, let's be clear.
He's overseeing the audit,
He's not overseeing the audit, no.
giving input to the audit.
He is giving context, is how I would
Providing
characterize
clarity.
it.
Yes,
providing-
he gets context. The rules are the rules. Mr. Green, the rules are the
The
rules.
rules are the rules.
Yes.
Consulting.
CBIZ is the auditing company, the CPA that's doing it, not the previous receiver.
Okay,
Get ready for Paul.
Councilman.
That being said, any more questions or comments from anybody? All right, we're gonna now call this meeting to a close. Call a vote.
So move.
No, we can't.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Have a great day, everybody.
thank you. So, Tom, here's Greg's response. He said it's out there. So, yeah, so should we have something?
It might still be live.
Right, so should we have a vehicle?
You say you're gonna stay live and just transition? Okay. I told him we're still live.
Right, that's what.
This one is live.
I apologize for, I ended up with the wrong date. I realized it when I was at the